One. Welcome back, everybody. This is CSUN Performance Ensembles in Conversation with. My name is Fernando Martinez. I am one of your hosts.
Hi, y'all. I'm Sir. I'm also one of your hosts, and we have our special guest here today.
If you want to
You
introduce
can introduce
yourself.
yourself.
Hi, my name is Angela.
And Angela,
um,
how do we know you?
so I was in the Season Performance Ensemble in 2019, I believe. It was my last semester in CSUN. I hadn't done any like specific extracurriculars at CSUN, and I love performing, so I was like, let's just give performance ensemble a chance. So yeah, that's where it all started.
I was trying to figure out what semester you were in, but I just realized we both yeah, you were in that in PE my last semester too, because that's when I also graduated as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy that that was two
yeah,
years ago. Okay, so
I know, I can't believe it.
yeah, time is weird. So the first question that I wanted to ask you, um, it just sort of came from the fact because it's interesting to me seeing things in hindsight, right? So looking back at things and especially knowing who you are now, and then looking back at the decisions that you've made. Um, I sort of want to know what was your thought process into um, joining PE. Once you joined PE, what were your first thoughts when you started working with us as an ensemble? Like, what attracted you to join, more specifically, I guess?
So I was doing a lot of performing before I transferred to CSUN. I did a lot of plays. I was doing a lot of like on-camera work too. Nothing like too big, a lot of like extra work. But when I joined the performance ensemble, like before leading joining, my decision to it was um, really like Jade's poetry performance class. And I really like poetry in general as a whole. So she told me about it one time, and I was like hesitant at first because I was like, it's my last semester. Like, am I really going to get anything out of it? But I was like, at the same time, I was like, it's my last semester. Let me just do it. So I joined, and upon joining, like everyone was very welcoming. First of all, like it felt like I knew everybody there for like the longest time, but I literally didn't know anybody. um, they were very welcoming and open, and I honestly didn't know what I was expecting going into it. Like I didn't know exactly what performance ensemble was about. I just knew it had to do with performing. But when we started to like make our own original work and base our performance off our original work, I was like, this is pretty cool because it allows you to express yourself as well as your creativity, and you just combine that all together and make like a really cool performance out of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Were you gonna say something?
Um, yeah, I wanted to add. So you said right, you do poetry. Would you consider yourself a poet?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Right. So
Yes.
with that, did you say, or did you ever think you would be displaying like your poetry on such um a level, like when it came to performing it and showcasing it in our at the end of our show, or at our show at the end of the semester?
Honestly, no. Yeah, honestly, no, because I was always very like scared because I was like, my poetry is so sacred. I'm sure you guys write too. So, like, how vulnerable it could get writing poetry. Um, so at first, I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna like it or relate to it, but it was very scary at first. But I got a lot of reassurance from everybody on the team and especially Jade, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You. So then going in, because I heard you say something along the lines of, um, you didn't really know what it was about. Like, had you heard at that point about the ensemble before you had joined, or was it just something that
I
Jade told you about it?
yeah, I heard about it through Jade's class. I didn't know like exactly what kind of performances that everyone does though. I didn't know if it was like a play setup, if it was like a movement or just like speaking. I didn't know exactly how the performance is set up. So that was what I was trying to say.
Okay. And then okay, that makes sense. And then I guess that once you sort of got the hang of how things worked, right? So like after doing all the weird exercises we would do, and Jade sort of giving us the freedom to work on our own things, did you? I don't know. Did you find yourself having any specific goals, or you're trying to get something out of this now that you were, um, this committed into the ensemble? Because well, you couldn't drop the class anyways. But like, did you have any specific goal for yourself?
It was very like it was more so like self goals, like personal goals, where I was like, I need to get over the fear of like displaying my poetry in front of people or my personal work, because I knew it was good, but you're always the most self-critical on yourself. So at first I was like, I need to do this in order to get over that fear. And also like I like to be relatable. I like for people to um if they're going through something similar, I like to like address certain topics like that too. So I think my piece was about how I wasn't able to fully express myself. And somehow I felt trapped in my body because I wasn't able to express myself. But at the same time, I was expressing how I feel through poetry and through that specific art.
Yeah, I don't know about you, sir, but like I still watch a lot of her shows back on YouTube.
Yeah.
Late at night when I can't sleep, I'll just watch them, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, like there's just something about your piece specifically at the end, where you just say the word bloom, and it's just like it hurts me, and I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that when I was hearing the poem at first, because I don't know how you guys felt, but like when other people were performing, I was like so in my own head because I was just trying to get ready for like my part that I zoned out a lot.
Mhm.
So I couldn't really pay attention to other pieces. But yeah, like that word always stuck out to me for some weird reason.
Yeah.
And that being said, I know that you were saying that one of the challenges that you had was, uh, just being comfortable with performing your poetry in front of people because it is a very personal thing, right? You're letting people into your life, um, in a way that you don't let some of your friends even. I think there's a lot of things that I've done on stage where I just didn't talk to my own like close friends about. Um,
Mhm.
that being said, were there other challenges that you faced or you felt when you entered the sort of performance space?
Um, I think my biggest challenge when it came to the trying to get the piece together was you're talking specifically about my piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was trying to incorporate the body movements towards it. Um, because I was like, I don't like at the time I was very, like I said, very self-critical, and I cared too much about what other people thought. So I was like, I don't want to look weird, but at the same time I was like, this is literally art. It's like you have to look weird. You have to be willing to put yourself
Mhm.
like out there and to like the fullest extent so people can understand. So it was hard to link the body movements to the words, and I had help from Sam and Nicole at the time. So that was really cool because they're dancers, so they knew how to help me. But yeah, I would say that was my biggest challenge. But in the end, it came all together, and I think they were in my piece too. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just wrote something down about the movement, because I'm a movement nerd. But I think that I wanted to ask, I think your movement was so beautiful. I think it
Thank
really
you.
embodied your piece, and um, how you were able to express that through certain moves or phrases made everything come so much alive. I just wanted to ask, do you feel like the movement helped you kind of break through another level of your artistry, or like do you feel like you would use movement more in the future? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, 100%. Because before, like, if I would perform, it was like very scripted. Like, prior to that, I did mainly plays. It was very scripted. So, like, I knew exactly what I was doing. But at this point, like, I had to create it on my own. So I feel like I not mastered it. There's still a long way to go for everything. But it really helps me, like, kick off, like, putting body movements together and linking.
Oh, what was that last part? I think you're
Yeah,
pretty.
you cut out a bit.
Yeah. It's very
Oh, sorry.
crazy.
I was just saying how like I was just saying how like it helped me like link the body movements to the words and how I was trying to express myself. So I definitely think that it did. take me another step, because if I hadn't done that at performance ensemble, I probably wouldn't have done it any other place at the time.
Yeah, and so like I know that a lot of the talk right now seems very technical, and eventually we'll get to questions that aren't, related to that. But I'm gonna keep going with the technical stuff, So I want to know because
Mhm.
this is because what was I gonna say? Oh, so when I watched the performance, like obviously like with the other people that were in there, like I already knew that Nicole was a dancer. I obviously knew that Sam did a lot of dance, has a lot of experience. I know that like Sir is really into movement, right? For some reason, I thought that you were also really into like not maybe not necessarily dance, but some sort of like choreographed movement sort of situation, right? Because you look pretty like professional at it, like it looked good. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, no, like just honestly, like it looked great. Like the movements looked great. But what I wanted to ask though is like if you had the ability to join again, in any capacity, is there something that you would want to experiment with? Is there some sort of um, I don't know, component to the art that you would want to include to your performance?
Um, it's a hard question. I would probably, if I were to join again, I would probably want to include um, more music to it, because I think I didn't. Mine was a voiceover,
Mhm.
um, and I feel like I'm very in sync with music. So I did do dance before, but like when it came to my piece, I was just kind of like, I don't know what to do. I'm so stiff right now. um, but I would definitely want to incorporate some kind of music, because I feel music is just like every artist's therapy. I feel like it doesn't matter what you do, if you're a poet, if you're an actor, if you're a dancer or a singer, like it really helps you tune into specific emotions. So I feel like I would definitely explore more with music.
Mhm. 'Cause
Nice.
I feel like I would struggle with like Sir, because I feel like you've done a lot of stuff with music too, right?
Mm.
Like, how do you incorporate music into performance, especially if you're doing something, um, like I know that we probably always think of like movement and dance with music, right? Because it just sort of goes hand in hand. But like, how
Yeah.
do you actually pair those things? Because I think that if I were to situate myself in the position that you two were in, or are in, I can't imagine myself trying to figure something out physically and then having to sync that up with sounds because that sounds like a lot of work, and too difficult for me. Because like a lot of what I do is pretty stagnant, right? Like it's just standing there and yakking a lot of lines out. But like, how do you incorporate music and sound into movement-based performances?
And this is angled towards me, right?
Yeah,
And I kind of wanted an angle what I'm going to say then to Angela.
yeah,
So I would say, really, I don't know if you have the same experience, Angela, is when I hear music or I listen to music, I start to have visualizations. I start to either have visualizations of stuff from the past or even new work or just colors, maybe, or moments of me expressing something to somebody, but it'll like be put kind of like in a little movie format. um,
Mhm.
so sometimes it comes up for me like that. And at that point, it's, I feel like kind of replaying the music and then actually showcasing what that visualization looks like on my body in the present day.
Mhm.
So to see if it really matches up. And what I do is really music inspires me first. Um, if I hear a song, that's when I'll have a lot of visualizations. Sometimes I have visualizations without music, but songs really push me forward and start my creative process. So I don't know if the same was for you. You hear a song and you're like, I see a story,
Mhm.
Angela.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. Like immediate, I know some people like listen to music and they don't really grasp the lyrics of the words, but I feel like my mind directly goes to the lyrics, and I'm just like, I don't know, like it just makes me feel a certain type of way.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then so again, this is something that we always go back to, I think, especially in the last few episodes, because the world has sort of been has been really hectic, actually, not a little hectic, very hectic. Um, one of the main purposes of this co-curricular program, one of the main purposes of PE is to create works of social justice, right? Like we do a lot of stuff I think in honor and in service of a lot of communities, the communities that we belong to, the communities that don't have a voice, the communities that we, I think, have a special place in our hearts, right? And Angela, I think the last time that you interacted with PE in any sort of way, shape, or form was when we had you record a video for us because of what was happening in ArtSoc, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's interesting because obviously at the time when you performed something that was, I think, what I like to call personal social justice, right? Like you're doing something in favor of you, in service of you. You're trying to like lift yourself up. But obviously, a lot of other people also do things that relate to social issues outside of the body. But going back to the whole thing that's happening in Armenia right now, is there? I think I sort of want to give more room for that, right? For that discussion. Is there anything that you sort of want to remind people about or talk about what's happening right now in Armenia? Because unfortunately, a lot of issues get the limelight for 5 minutes and people just forget about it. And I think a part of it too is just because so many awful things happen that we sort of move on, but it's unfortunate that some things never get the attention again. And this is one of them. So I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Sort of the work that you've been doing, especially online, because you've been doing a lot of social justice work online. For anybody that follows you knows that. So is there anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for giving me the space to talk about that, by the way. That means a lot. At the time when I recorded the video, there was a lot of like there was a war going on at the time in Armenia. It had just started, and well, it initially started. The wars there are always over land, but it initially started from the other side, trying to evade into Armenia. Um, and it's I want to like make sure I get like every single point, so I'm just trying to get my thoughts together.
Yeah.
Um, basically, it lasted for about 2 months, I want to say. And at the end of it, they agreed to a ceasefire, and they didn't really come to any type of resolution.
Mm.
It was just like a ceasefire, and that was it. They stopped, but they didn't actually stop. They just kept going after. It was not as bad as
Hmm.
before. And now there's a situation where the people in Azerbaijan um, literally have a museum of like fake like Armenian heads, like their bodies or like their gears. Like I just think it's so disgusting. Like I'm not any like I don't hate anybody. Like I live from the heart and I don't hate them either. I just hate the way that they're running their government.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
because it's cruel, it's inhumane, like it's not anything that anyone should have to go through. And I know it's not just Armenia that's going through this. There's like so many other countries out there who are going through the same situation. So yeah, that's definitely something that has been going on for a few months, and it's just disgusting to see that museum right now.
Yeah, and then yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, guys, sir, I don't know if you remember Lynette. I feel like I've been Lynette. I don't know if you remember her, but I've been bringing
Hmm.
her
Yeah.
up a lot. She graduated with me. She was part of or we went to grad school together. She's also Armenian, but like she's been fighting the good fight since the first day. Like she hasn't stopped till this day, right? And the reason why I bring that up too is because I wanted to, I guess, sort of dive into the topic of what social justice means, especially in the space of performance, right? Because this is a conversation that I have with a lot of people. Whenever we discuss things, there's just discussion matters, right? Just topics. But we always forget that beyond the topics are actual real world events. There are real world effects. People are losing their lives. They're losing their livelihoods. They're losing their homes. A lot of things are not recognizable anymore. And I think it's really upsetting. And so I wanted to know what social justice means to you now, especially after all the things that have been happening,
Yeah.
right? Um, because I know that you've been doing a lot of things online, right? So like, I don't know, has the idea of like a social justice performance changed for you now that you're not on stage, but you're still, inserting yourself in this fight?
100%, because before I was always like I was still in. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So I was always into like, fighting the good fight, and like I was into um learning more about certain situations that were not fair, that deserve justice, but I wasn't so active in it. And because like I feel like I should have been, but now I'm more aware of it. I'm more active, not just in my community, but like in other communities as well too, because I feel like it's becoming a really big problem for any culture, any race, any ethnicity. So
Mhm.
um, I definitely feel like I'm more active with it. I'm more aware of what's going on, as everyone should be. Um, and I feel like certain with specifically with Armenia, because it's not in America, it's not happening in America. I feel like sometimes it's kind of like brushed off. Like it gets like a few seconds of attention and then it's brushed off.
Yeah.
So I feel like it should be given more awareness to that too.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too, because when we think a lot of I think international issues, right? Um, I think the ones that we hear the most about, and obviously this is due to geographical reasons, right? So we hear a lot of things that are happening um, at the border with Mexico, with a lot of people who are trying to migrate to the U.S. with Central America because it's so close. Um, because a lot of us are transplants from those places here. I mean, there's still a lot of awful things happening, but there is a lot more attention, right? And what's
Mhm.
striking to me is I'm pretty sure that um, either Los Angeles or just Southern California in general has the highest population of Armenians outside of Armenia, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
Like the population is so big, right? Like there, I mean, we even have a little Armenia,
yeah,
like near Hollywood, right? Like that's where I used to go to school, so like that's how big it is here.
yeah,
And so what's insane to me is that despite the fact that that is the case, um, there isn't enough talk about it. Unfortunately, it's only in the community that's suffering, or other
mhm,
marginalized communities that are standing up for them, right? Or standing up
yeah.
with them, I mean. Is there, so how do we remedy that? I know this is a really big question, and we probably don't have the answers in the grand scheme of things, right? But how do we remedy that, at least in, in the black box theater or in the hallway where we performed? How do we remedy this in performance?
Mm.
That's a really good question. It is very like big, but um, in specifically in performance, like if I had the chance to perform again, I think I would definitely at this time incorporate something that has to do with like my culture and how we've been marginalized as well, and like oppressed and gone through a lot of difficult situations.
Yeah.
I definitely would incorporate a performance about that. Um, I and also media is really big too. Like I'm having like this vision of my in my head, like if I were to do a performance, like I would have like different like people be certain media outlets, like because there was a lot of media going
Yeah.
on at the time that was pro Azerbaijan. And don't get me wrong, like both sides had their faults. I'm not saying that like Armenia is like super innocent because like they were both killing each other basically. Um, but it's just the way the other side went about it and the way they displayed their hate versus how like we were just trying to protect our land, and sorry, this is kind of like going off topic, but the place where my mom is originally from in Armenia, like they're so close to that border, like they're so close to like taking that land too, that it's kind of scary. Like my mom wanted to visit Armenia this year, but she's like, I don't know if I go, like, are they just gonna like at the time, like, try to take over that land too? It's like, so it's very scary. Um, but definitely with like um, performance in specific, I would definitely incorporate some type of performance about how like media is playing their part in a way where it's like very biased, because there wasn't enough information going on at the time about Armenia's side. So I would incorporate that somehow.
I think you mentioned so many great points in there, and I wanted to know throughout all of this that's been happening and going on, and knowing that you're a poet and that's your creative outlet, but also you do movement and whatnot, and you've been on social media, kind of actively being in that. How have you been taking care of yourself throughout all of this? And do you go back to your poetry to help navigate that trauma or secondary trauma that you are seeing? And also in your community, you're hearing stories, and your family or friends or feeling so many emotions, and either from sadness to anger. How how are you caring for yourself, and are you using your outlet of expression to do so?
Yeah, so when the war initially started, there was a lot of like activism going on about it. We did a lot of like fundraisers, donations, and a lot of marches. But for me personally, like I participated in those as well, which made me obviously feel much better, like knowing that I'm taking a part. But also at the time, I had wrote specific like poetry pieces. I think I wrote like two pieces regarding the situation, and one of them I had posted, but I took it down later because I was like, I don't know if I should keep it up. But yeah, that was definitely a certain way that I was coping, because I do release my emotions through writing.
Is there, it's just real quick, I don't know if Sarah was going to ask something, but why is there, I mean, if you're comfortable talking about it, but was there a reason why you ended up taking the piece down?
Mhm.
Um, I honestly, I had it down, I had it up for a few weeks, and then I started to feel weird about, I don't know, I think I was just being too critical again. Like I was like, okay, maybe it's not good enough. Like I don't know, because I was seeing so many other people post it too, and that was when I started comparing myself. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just like keep this to myself. I compare, but yeah, that's like the hardest thing.
Sorry about that.
No, no, it's okay.
Were you worried about people analyzing? Were you worried about people analyzing the poetry itself? Or are you worried about people? Uh, are worried about people's perceptions on your thoughts when it came to the issue?
I think I was more worried about like the the way they were analyzing it. I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think, I feel like that's very telling of what also just happens when you're in this space, anyways. Like, these are the thoughts that go through your head over and over, right? Like, clearly they don't leave you after you're done with school. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
struggling with that. I was gonna say though, if for whatever reason it happens to reappear, resurface, and you want to send it over to CSUN, we can just post it because we don't. People can critique us, and that's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm
Um,
down for that.
yeah. So I think that, sir, you were onto something with how we take care of ourselves, because I think, because this is a conversation that I had with somebody who like, I always bring this person up. Obviously not going to say their name, but it frustrates me because they look down on performance art a lot, saying that it a waste of public funds, whatever, like
Mhm.
whole sitch. And I think the one thing that they always use as a critique against it is that it is exhausting to always be fighting, right? And to a degree, that person is right. It is exhausting. I think it's exhausting physically, pre-COVID, and I think it's exhausting now mentally, and it always has been, but more so now because of COVID, right? So we've just been stuck home this whole time. We've been doing a lot. We've been, I think, open to a lot of issues happening in the world, so we're just like digesting a lot. Do you ever feel like, and this is a question for both of you, I guess, but do you ever feel like that fatigue um, becomes dangerous for performance and for the self?
That's a good
Sir,
one.
would you like to answer first?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I wonder. I just want to know that person's thought process with that. It's really interesting. I I think fatigue is very prominent among so many different levels, and I've experienced it to like a severe degree, I believe, because of this platform, being that I'm such a body in person um, well, I'm such a person that's about embodiment and being in person and connecting with folks and seeing things, like literally also being able to touch things tangibly. And Zoom is really just up here. It's really heady, right? It's really just all up in your head, and you kind of forget the neck down. And I think, sorry, Fernando, I'm getting lost off track with the question. What was the question again?
If you feel like it's fine. If you feel like this sort of the fatigue that comes from always wanting to fight for whatever social justice issue, does it ever become dangerous to the self and to performance?
Okay, there you go. Sorry, that got me like really passionate about that. But I don't think it's ever dangerous. Um, I think if people come into performance and don't fight through that fatigue and understand where it came from, how they're processing it, and how they can get past it to then rejuvenate themselves, that's where I think it's beneficial. However, fatigue and self can also be very detrimental at times, but I think it's about the community, right? So I think if you have a community, if you have other scholars, friends, family that help you through that fatigue and rejuvenate you, and you also do that yourself, I think performance and yourself will always stay like constantly growing, constantly be rejuvenated, and constantly being able to find new ways in life to gain energy and resource yourself while also resourcing a community, and bringing back very just like concrete and fundamental issues to either a performance ensemble or to yourself. I think that it's just, I don't think it's ever, fatigue is ever a detriment. I think it's just something that's very normal. I think it's very normal. I think all emotions are very normal. I feel like if you're going through something and it's hard and you're struggling, you don't really understand it, like that's okay, because that's just life, right? And you have to go through that. Like it's if you go into a situation and uh, you're completely numb and don't, and just not at all feeling any type of emotion, I would say that might not be normal, right? But if it invigorates you, if it tires you, that's important, because what you have to dig into that, right? You have to find, like, are you desensitized, right? Are you now letting go of that courage, or are you letting go of that the cause at hand, the issue at hand, right? I think it's fatigue is something that should be acknowledged, and I don't think it's ever a danger. I think it's just part of life. Yeah.
Dang, the philosophy right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Then I think because of that, I sort of want to know what you think too, Angela. Do you feel like it ever becomes dangerous to your performance, to performance in general, or to yourself, to always be
Um,
in that position of fighting, right?
I would have to completely agree with Sir, because honestly, when like you're performing and you're expressing how you feel about certain situations or certain social issues, to me personally, that's refreshing. That's like, I want to do it. Like, I want to do more, even though like your body might get tired, or your body might experience the fatigue. It's like, I'm gonna keep going because it's something that motivates me, so I don't think it's dangerous. I, I definitely think you do need to take time for yourself to rest for your body, but to me specifically, it's very refreshing. It makes me want to keep going harder. It makes me want, like, it's something that I enjoy. So definitely don't think it's dangerous.
I just really quick want to add on to that I think when community members are tired, right, you have to ask for help. You have to ask for, even if you're tired in life, besides performance, you take it out of performance and you're like, what is life? Like, I'm tired. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know what the future is. I'm just kind of like, yo, existential crises all the time, however it may be. You need to say, hey, I'm tired. I need help. And
Mhm.
I don't think people take in consideration, right, that call for help. I think it's such a war cry when people say, like, I'm tired of fighting, because that could go over, that's really, I feel like, a deep thing in itself to even say, right?
Yeah.
um and when you're tired, you reach out to community members, and then they go scream, they go to the marches, they say, hey, we're tired. They're able to say that for you, and you might be in bed taking care of yourself, but I reached out, and have someone else to help me. And then when they're tired, you're able to go back, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there's, I think if you're fighting for something and you don't ever get everything we're fighting for, I feel like when it comes to social issues, are always going to bring fatigue. It's always going to bring some type of weight. So that's a part of the process. That's a part of the performance. That's a part of the philosophy. It's a part of the expression. Um, because we're trying to break down stuff that's been like fundamentally ingrained in the system that wasn't meant for us. And that completely goes
Mhm.
against our bodies or our minds. So it's like, if you're not tired, you might be privileged, or you might be right not even encountering problems that much in your life
Yeah.
because you know you just in your life just was not set up for you to have to go through too many hurdles and bounds and all that stuff. So yeah,
Mhm.
just need to add that in there.
I think it definitely. I mean, I think if we were to compare it to something, it's sort of like I don't know what's that sport called, like the one where they run with batons. Is that relay
Oh
racing?
yeah, I don't know the
It's
I don't
I don't know if
know.
if you guys know what I'm talking about. Like they have a stick in their hand, they run and they pass it to the next runner, and they have to keep running laps.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what it's like to me when I think about this. But what's interesting, especially if we're talking about privilege, right? That obviously if you're always fighting for something, it does get exhausting. I think especially mentally, because typically the people that are fighting are the people who are marginalized already, so they're already going through a lot of shit, right? So now they're also taking on this role of having to educate other people who don't understand, and I think that's
Mhm.
the part that's the most exhausting when people don't understand. Um, and then what I was gonna say though, it really is like that baton thing because that's the whole purpose of performance art. And so that was always my response to this person, right? It was like, well, if at the end of the day, if you come out of that show and you just feel really upset about what you saw, then the performer did their job. If you feel really happy, really sad, really connected, really engaged, the performer did their job. If you come
Mhm.
out there really confused and have questions, that performer did their job, right? I think that you ultimately just educate everybody, and it's like a good infection, right? You infect everybody with education, and that's the only way to go. And I think also it reminds me too, because I have um, a friend who never realized the position of privilege that they had, um, especially relating to what was happening in Armenia, right? Because this person's of Armenian background, or partially, I think. But they never realized the privilege that they had of never having to worry about certain issues because he just wasn't aware. And then when this started happening, he realized, like, oh, that's really fucked up. And then he realized, oh, it's even more fucked up because a lot of other people are also experiencing the same thing in other cultures, right? That are not directly tied to the US, but they're experiencing it. Um, so I think that ultimately it's just it educates people, right? Like that's like I've been telling JD on this show, like that's the bare minimum for what we have to do when it comes to social justice is just educate ourselves and help others educate themselves and educate each other, right? Um, so thank you for answering that question. I feel like that was a really big question for both of you to answer. So Angela, real quick, one thing that we never really do with people that are on this show, maybe it's something that we should start doing, is asking them what they've done, um, not just with their creative sides, but just with themselves after PE, right? Like, what's life after PE? What has life been for you after, 2019 when you joined PE?
Um, should I start? Okay. So, life after PE. So I graduated the same year, I mean the same semester I joined PE. So after that, I mean, as far as career-wise goes, like I was majoring in communication. So um I was looking for a job specifically in the media. At the time, I was working somewhere for public relations. So I actually, when I was in school, still I was still working at that job, but I wasn't doing public relations at the time. I was just kind of like an assistant. And after I graduated, I got promoted to that public relations position, which was cool. However, I didn't stay too long at the job because I realized I went through like my 10th spiritual awakening. And I was like, I don't want this. So afterwards, I took some time off and I eventually got another job. Um, I got this job because it was convenient. I didn't necessarily like want it.
Oh, always in the good parts, huh, sir?
which I needed at the time. Um,
Well, you cut out again, Angela. Can
oh,
you repeat the last couple seconds?
yeah, I was just saying I got another job where it was just convenient. I needed the income at the time, so yeah, I had to do what I had to do. You know, you got to live somehow. So basically, at the time, I was working there for like a year or so all throughout COVID. I was lucky enough to have a job during COVID, so I feel really grateful for that part.
Mhm.
Um, so I was there for like a year and a few months, and recently I got laid off from that job. So because the place was closing down. So I actually, ever since that happened, um, well, during the time that I was working there as well, I started like a little like small venture for myself as well, a small business.
Nice.
So um, it was something I've been working on since last January, but I launched in November. So it was like a long time coming, but um, I didn't have enough like focus to work on that at the time because I was working my 9 to 5. But since I've been out of that 9 to 5, I've had more time to focus on that. That specifically has allowed me to be more creative in itself too, because I've had to not only like do everything for the brand, I'm also like the spokesperson. I make the videos for it. Like I'm pretty active on TikTok specifically. So I feel like the performance tools that I have gained from Performance Ensemble and like any type of other performance that I've done really helps like be comfortable on camera or comfortable talking to people. And I also, for that small business, like I also offer like astrology readings. So like I'm kind of doing like freelancing a bit
Mhm.
since I've left the job. So it's been kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah, man, that sounds insane. But you know what's funny? I feel like you sort of you gave us a little spiel where, like, honestly, I felt like was a question I wanted to ask anyways. Um, because I think the people that don't know you, right, like astrology, I think is a really big part of who you are. I think it's a pretty big part of your identity. I think anybody that knows
Mhm.
you knows that, right? Um, and it's funny because I didn't even think about how what you've learned on stage can directly translate to, being on TikTok. Like that's a major like tool. Like I think people don't understand how powerful TikTok is. Right? Like it's
Mhm.
caused actual social change in a lot of different ways. But it also does a lot of things for people who have small businesses. So I don't know if, honestly, like free room to talk about your business. If you want to talk about it, like what's it about? Like let us know what it is.
So basically, it's called Seventh Sense. It started from the fact that like when I went through my spiritual awakenings, like I was turning more into like holistic remedies rather than pharmaceuticals, because we all know pharmaceuticals are not that great for us. But basically, I researched a lot about um, aromatherapy, how it affects our certain energy points, which is also known as the chakras. So I also was like working very closely with crystals as well. So I had a lot of that come together, and I was like, what kind of product can I make that could help others the way it helped me with the tools that I've used? Although, like, going through spiritual awakening is not about the things that you use, it's about all the work you're doing within yourself. Um, Beyond that, though, if you do want to use any tools, like I offer it, like I thought of coming up with a product that could help the 7 chakras. So they're basically essential oil roll-ons. They're meant to be applied before you meditate or while you're doing yoga. So you apply them to certain areas of your body, or you inhale them while you're doing your meditation or your yoga. It's supposed to help open those chakras holistically, and it's supposed to help like kind of bring you back to center. And I don't know if you guys know much about aromatherapy, but there's like a certain link to the way certain smells affect your brain and affect like your body, and the way like your body intakes the oil as well. So that is the first product and the only product I have so far, but I am looking to expanding soon.
Man, insane. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we'll probably. I mean, honestly, we probably just will promote you later later on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To help the homies out. Yeah, I had one more question. And I don't know if like Sir has any other questions, but the other question that I had is I guess just sort of looking back at your experiences, knowing um, what it was like from the first day to the last day that you were in PE, to all the things that have happened since then, right, in the last 2 years. What piece of advice do you have for anybody who might be considering joining PE? Because I don't know if you know this, but we PE doesn't it was canceled this semester.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, it was canceled for the first time,
Yeah.
I think. But with like everything sort of going back to the new normal, I think a lot of people are, it. I feel like it's going to come back. It should come back.
Mhm.
What piece of advice do you have for students who are interested in joining PE?
I would, first of all, I would say if they're hesitant to join, I would just say do it because it's such a great experience. My favorite part was meeting everybody there. And besides the performance part, like I honestly have never felt more connected to a group than I did when I was in PE. So it was really cool. I would say that if they're any if they have like a certain creative outlet, they should definitely join, because it really helps you break out of your shell. It helps you get over any fears that you have. And it helps you be more creative and bring like this really cool piece to life along with other people who are going through similar or different situations. So it's definitely something I feel like every creative person should experience.
Yeah, awesome. Sir, was there anything that you wanted to say or ask?
Um, no, I feel like yes, really great questions, Fernando, and you elaborated very well on your stuff, Angela, and I feel like I heard a good amount, and I'm happy with what I heard, and I think yeah, it was such a great talk today. I love the different levels we got to with certain conversations and social issues. But yeah, it's so great seeing you again, Angela. It's been a minute.
This is so fun.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful place, I think, to stop. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And then for everybody watching, thank you so much for watching our podcast. My name is Fernando Martinez. I am one of your hosts.
I'm Sir. I'm also one of your hosts, and we have our lovely special guest closing us out.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you both Fernando and Sarah for hosting. This was very exciting and I'm glad to see you guys again on screen.
It's the part typically where I tell Jefferson, the other host, to wave goodbye at the camera, so that it looks, fun. So if Sarah, you want to help me, yeah, just wave goodbye. All right, thank you.